We got 6 weeks left in the baseball season, everyone, and we're talking a lot of baseball, a lot of FAAB, a lot of standings talk, a lot of player talk, all coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We're sponsored by DraftKings Pick 6. We appreciate them for that. If you could please rate and review the podcast, also helps us out a lot. If you enjoy listening to us all year, leave some stars, a nice review. Does go a long way towards helping us out. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. Jeff, how's everything for you tonight?
Doing well. I'm happy to be talking ball. Just got a lot to talk about. It was a busy FAAB week, and hopefully I didn't screw up too badly.
It's always my hope as the bids come out. I'm weirdly low in money in both my main events, which I'm usually not, and it's been a weird phenomenon for me. I'm not used to it. It's been frustrating, but trying to slide guys through a week early. Trying not to. I dropped Michael Kopech last week for Daniel Hudson. That one really is backfiring now because Kopech 2 saves. I was trying to catch the I think Hudson had a save on Sunday, whatever it was. I was trying to catch that one, and I did it backwards. I kept him in one main, dropped him in the other, and it's so a little good and a little bad there. But
Kopech looks so good too.
It says a lot for maybe how bad the White Sox are because he's actually throwing his slider, and that's kind of what he's done to fix this. It's just not predictable. He's throwing a ton more sliders. He had a pitch today that Arenado ended the game. He went up with a fastball, and you could tell the next one Arenado kind of pulled a fastball foul, and then all of a sudden he goes slider down, double play, and boom. It's just it's amazing what a smart team could do for someone. Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, he's looked dominant with the White Sox at times too. That's the thing. Yeah. That's got to be frustrating if you're a White Sox fan. It's they just blew it. This is such a bad organization that they do these sort of things. But I mean, they've since fired their manager. They need to fire the owner, and that's the problem. That's never going to happen.
Eliminated from playoff contention today.
Yeah, I did see that.
I looked at the ESPN standings. There's a little E next to them. It feels kind of bad. Then you look over, and they're a minus 258. That's not good.
No, it is not good at all. It's a shame. But hey, we came not to bury the White Sox too much. We usually bury the Rockies, so we'll move on.
But their division, however, is really, really good right now. The Guardians got swept by the Brewers this weekend. The Twins did lose today, but they had won 3 or 4 in a row before that. Royals have won 4 in a row. Suddenly it's a 3-team race and really, really tight. Guardians up 2 on Minnesota, 3 on Kansas City. The Central's looking like a really, really fun division. We got the Orioles and Yankees tied in the East. We had some good AL races this year.
Yeah, we do. The Tigers gave the Yankees a gut punch loss tonight in Williamsport. The Tigers are kind of just the fly in the ointment team. They're good enough to be annoying, bad enough that they're not really in the heat of the race here, but you could squint and see a path for them in the future. Not this year, but in the future, I think you can. They need some things to go right for them, but I mean, they've done some things right this year. I'll just say that. But I mean, the Royals just beat the Reds into a pulp this weekend. Speaking of those Tigers, the Tigers swept the Reds after the Reds swept the Yankees. This week it was Reds sweep the Cardinals, get swept by the Royals. That's such a microcosm of the Reds season.
Yeah, and it was just so backbreaking because not only on top of that, you had Hunter Greene, who's pitching literally like a Cy Young right now. He's one of the best pitchers in the National League the last 2 months, going on the IL. With elbow soreness, had an MRI, this is just the whole thing is so bad. I love watching Greene pitch when he's not throwing up on the mound. I love watching Greene pitch. He's had some stomach issues out there, but man, he has been awesome. Losing him, the biggest thing this weekend was all the injuries. We will get to that in a second, but Hunter Greene was at the top of them. I have him in my main event. My main event's kind of middling anyway, so probably doesn't make a difference. But boy, is that just a final nail in any kind of chance to make a run. It's just it's brutal for the Reds, brutal for fantasy owners. Greene has been awesome. He's been one of the better stories this last couple of months.
Yeah, he has. Absolutely. And, the thing is, he's made some modifications not to overthrow, and he still gets this. But again, it's impossible to protect pitchers. We've learned this.
It is, unfortunately. The other division in the AL, the Astros, we talked about them a bunch. A lot of injuries for them, too. Bregman missed the whole weekend, but, man, they are just on fire. They won both games this weekend. They're 9-1 in the last 10. Their playoff odds on ESPN are over 85% now. They got a 4-game lead on the Mariners. It seems like full steam ahead here for the Astros.
Yeah, they lost on Friday, which was interesting, but then they really righted the ship. Again, it was the White Sox, so they're grading on the curve. Losing 1 out of 3 is actually kind of almost a failure. But sad to say that, but
but they have won 9 out saying it's other teams too, so they're just playing really well right now.
Sure they are. We kind of had an inkling that they'd make a run, but it's pretty complete now. The Mariners aren't even playing that badly. I think didn't they take 2 out of 3 from Pittsburgh this weekend?
I believe so. And there's one of those teams that if they get in, like that is a pitching staff that you get a short series against Gilbert, Kirby, and Castillo. That's gonna be a tough team. Their offense is not very good. Julio is back now, but the other thing in that division, the Rangers are dead. Like the World Series champions, they are officially. I'm going to go ahead and call them dead. They're 11 games out. Yeah, they're 12 and a half out of the wild card. Like they're dead. What a wild season in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, we did say like that series against the Astros was pretty important for them. Yep. By the way, the Mariners lost 2 out of 3 to the Tigers.
Oh, they lose on Friday. Okay.
I mean, to the Pirates, and they had a horrible week. They lost 5 out of 6. So shame on me. They were so good against the Mets last weekend and then so terrible for the rest of this week. It just shows you're only as good as your next game. Rangers, they're dead. Flags fly forever.
Yep.
They got that, and this was a lot of things went wrong for them this year. They still have a core intact, but it's pitching. They got to figure out the pitching for next year. Like, is Scherzer going to be able to give them anything at all? Some of these other pitchers, what can they bring to the table? Because their pitching is just evaporated. And of course, Evan Carter did nothing this year. Langford got off to a slow start. Can't blame Langford for this because he's a rookie. He barely had any even professional experience there. I think we expected too much right out of the gate. And frankly, Carter too, remember he rapidly rose through the system too. And their farm system is not very strong either. So it's a weird spot for the Rangers to be in right now.
Yeah, 39 innings combined between Scherzer and DeGrom. It's just, when you're paying those guys, you get absolutely nothing. I mean, you probably expect not very much, injury wise, but it's just when you get that from guys you're paying that much money, it's just hard to overcome that.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, they did overachieve last year. Remember, it's not like they were one of the favorites coming in. They caught fire at the right time. They barely won the division. Right? Or did they even? No, they didn't even win the division.
I assume Houston won the division. Right?
Houston won the division. Yeah. That's right. They barely got in though. It was like this 3-way race. Remember, the Mariners were eliminated on the final day of the season, if I recall correctly.
That sounds right. Then I think they hit a big home run in the 161, then lost in 162, if I remember right. Something like that.
That's right. Yeah, because the Mariners are specialists at gut punches too.
They are very gut punchy. Very remnant. Think about it with the A's too. The A's had a big game this weekend against the Giants. Load the bases in the bottom of the 10th. They're down 2 and don't score another. They scored 1 run in the 10th. They didn't score another run. It was just a very nice bow on on 25 years of the A's blowing big games at the Coliseum. It was lovely to watch.
Yeah. I feel bad for the players involved.
It was like watching the Derek Lowe game against Terrence Long and Adam Melhuse all over again. It was just brutal. The A's take bad losses to just another level.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. And but there's how many fans say that about their team? I mean,
true.
A lot, and it's true. It is true.
But the A's have been probably, since 2000 with the Giambi team, they've probably been in the playoffs like 10, 11 times. They've won 0 ALCS games.
That's hard to do.
Pretty hard to do with some of the teams they have. 0 AL. They made it to the LCS once. A lot. They got swept by the Tigers. 0 ALCS wins through that entire stretch. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's what all the critics of Moneyball, would always cite. However, keep in mind too that this is how many of these cheaper teams have advanced? I mean, there's the Marlins once every 20 years.
At least when they got there, they did something, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean,
twice.
But let's face it, it's not like the Rays have won a World Series. They've gotten to the World Series twice. The Pirates have never done anything appreciable. Trying to think, they're not even a Moneyball franchise. They're just a cheap franchise.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of delineate between the wealthy Moneyball franchises and the cheap Moneyball franchises.
Looking in the National League with the Brewers, man, the Brewers have taken off in the NL Central. We kind of talked about that being a race for a while. They're 11 up in the Central. I think the NL Central's over.
Oh, it's been over for a while. I thought. I knew there was a chance at one point that the Cardinals were pushing on them a little bit. The Reds kind of did finished off the Cardinals a little bit there. They swept them earlier in the week. They've lost 7 out of 10. And meanwhile, the Brewers swept the Guardians. I mean, for all the praise we're giving the AL Central, just realize that their best team came into Milwaukee and got swept.
Yep.
A team that's missing Christian Yelich, a team that has one starter, who would be a playoff starter for anybody else, and Freddie Peralta. I mean, it's so weird.
And Freddie Peralta's ERA is 4 on the year too.
Yeah, I know. He's been pretty bad the last couple of months. It's really wild to see this. Like, you look at their rotation, they have some, decent numbers for some guys, but like Colin Ray, like he's 10-4 with a 3.72 ERA. At least he was coming into today. It's even better now.
Yep.
Tobias Myers has had his moments, but do you consider him a playoff star? Maybe I should. Maybe I'm underselling Myers.
Yeah, I mean, 100 innings, a 2.8 ERA, pretty darn solid. But I mean, he's definitely probably the number 2 right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's your playoff rotation order for the Brewers?
It's Peralta, Myers, Ray, I suppose, right?
Not your trade deadline acquisition, Frankie Montas, or your other trade deadline acquisition, Aaron Savali.
That's right. I keep forgetting about Savali because he's been so bad.
He's been better lately.
He pitched well yesterday or Friday, whatever it was. He actually got a win this weekend. But man, that's
against the Guardians. Yeah, he pitched well against the Reds in the start before that too. Now, granted, it's the Guardians and the Reds. Anybody not in the state of Ohio, he struggled against a little bit more.
Peralta, Myers, and then whoever's pitching the best in September probably is number 3.
Johnny Holstaff.
Yeah, it's Devin Williams is back though. He's looked really good too.
Yeah, he has. And that whole we're not going to let him pitch back-to-back days thing lasted about 7 days.
That was fun when he came against the Dodgers and faced all 3 MVPs and retired all of them in a row. It was pretty fun.
He looks good.
Yeah, he looks really good. Speaking of looking really good, Bobby Witt season is crazy right now. He was really good first half. He's hitting 450 since the All-Star break. Jeff, who's the number 1 pick next year? If you did pick it right now, Acuna, Witt, or Shohei Ohtani?
Or Judge. I think you're forgetting
Judge, although I think the stolen bases probably helped the other guys probably above Judge.
Probably,
but Judge has been utterly insane. No doubt.
I think you need to, at least he needs to be in the conversation. It's not Acuna, by the way. Okay. I think I can dismiss that pretty quickly.
Okay.
Just, you don't know what he's going to be able to do coming off the knee and the second time around. I think I'd probably go Ohtani, but man, it's tough because he's going to be DH. I'm done underselling Ohtani though. I was aggressively wrong on him. I don't have him anywhere this year. I made the case against it and I was wrong. So I'm loath to dismiss him again next year. But man, Witt's so darn good too.
I'm going Witt. It's funny because 2 years ago I was like, I don't know if Witt's a mid first round pick. And when I looked at Witt this year, I was all in. I took him twice and I have 4 drafts. I took him twice in the first round. I tried to poke holes on Witt in the offseason. Everything looked really good and just looks better now. I think I'm going Witt, shortstop, super young. Hard to argue against any of those guys, but that's who I would take. Paul Sporer in the chat mentioned Ellie. He said he'd take Ellie over Acuna.
I was just going to ask about that. Yeah. What do you think?
Ellie's at 21.59 right now. And he's hitting 260. It's not like, I think we kind of think you get a batting average risk with Ellie, but hitting 260 right now. The strikeouts are so huge, though. He's still at 31%. So, but he's so fast. I think the batup's always going to be pretty good. If he hits 260, it's hard to argue against him. But I'd still go Witt and Ohtani first.
Doesn't the counting stats kind of work against Ellie there too? Lineup, team context. I know the ballpark's fine, but the team is not that fine around.
52 RBIs is brutal, man. That's 60 less than Judge right now.
Yeah, I think. That's too much of a tax, I think, to make, for the stolen bases. I mean, man, it's tough. I think I put Ellie behind Judge, maybe Soto. I don't know.
I was gonna say we haven't even mentioned Soto, who's been just insane. I guess a lot depends on where Soto signs, but if he re-signs in New York, which I feel pretty strongly he will, based on how the season's gone. I mean, he's 103 runs, 34, 87. He's hitting 302 right now. I mean, dude's awesome. He has more walks than strikeouts. It's just unbelievably good.
Yeah. And I think Gunnar needs to enter the chat. I think you can make a case for him. And we're not mentioning the summer of J-Ram at $50 in the earned auction value tool right now. I mean,
so quietly too.
Yeah. So again, our opinions will kind of change here and there, but it makes me want to draft 5th or 6th next year. I'll say that.
I was about to say, like, picking 5, 6, 7, getting one of these guys, the last guy, and then getting an earlier pick second round sounds pretty good right now. But it's fun. And the funny thing with all these guys, there's so many good young players too. Like, these guys are awesome. They're young. It's just great.
Yeah, it is. It is. We haven't even mentioned Mookie, by the way, either, who's should be in the conversation because
he'll be back to
his injury was a total fluke.
He'll be back to like the 12th overall pick and crush it for people who take him there. It's just I always love when Mookie's right there. Yeah,
he'll rise. So that's
hard though. I mean, can he rise above those 8 guys you just mentioned?
Well, I mean, he was on a path to do so before he got hurt. And he didn't get like this injury prone type of injury. No, he got hit by a pitch in the hand. He's still at 306. He's still 12-10 awesome. Despite missing all those games. Maybe it's a little less time. Maybe he probably should be 7 or 8, but we haven't mentioned the pitcher yet, by the way.
Yeah, nor will we, by the way.
Yeah.
Is there one? I don't think there is one.
Skeens?
He's not above the 7 or 8 guys you just named. I mean, I love Skeens, and I think he'll be a late first round, early second round pick, probably late first round.
You don't get you're not going to get a main event sort of push.
You might. I still don't think you get him before those 7 or 8 guys we just mentioned.
I think you're probably right.
Especially with the fact that there was one of those guys that was there this year was Strider, and he got hurt right away. I think that will play into people's minds, but I think he's like a 10th to 15th pick somewhere there. Probably him and Skubal, probably the first 2 pitchers.
Yes, Paul mentioned Skubal.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. I think I'd take those hitters above them, but I think there'll be some leagues where you'll see Skeens or Skubal at like 5.
Yeah, there'll always be a league on and off. I think those 7 or 8 guys, though, I'd take pretty easily over any pitcher right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Speaking of fun young players, a guy that started off a little bit slow, there was talk he might get sent down. Jackson Chourio has been really good in the second half. 350 since the All-Star break, 15 home runs, another stolen base today to make 17 stolen bases, up to 270. Strikeout rate is kind of down. It's 21%. We can deal with that. Hard hit rate's 46%. This dude is as advertised. The start was a little bit slow, but since that first month and a half or so, he's been really, really good. And he's hitting up in the lineup now. He's someone to be flying up draft boards next year.
Agreed. This strikes me as kind of Witt-esque, except Witt struck out more. So it's even better than that, perhaps. You don't get the infield, you don't get shortstop eligibility, let alone multi-position eligibility like you got with Witt, but for a year. But yeah, he's climbing fast, and that's one of the reasons why the Brewers are playing so well despite missing Yelich, by the way.
Yeah, Chourio's been really good. He's fun too. Like, I mean, we got the 3 Jacksons are all fun between Holiday, Chourio, and Jackson Merrill. I mean, 3 young studs, all with the same first name, all gonna be flying up boards. It's like I said before, we talked about those top guys are all young. This group of young guys, Chourio's 20 right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I hate it because I'm a Reds fan, and the Brewers have them locked up already too. They've already signed them long term.
That's true. They have. Good call there. But let's jump into this week fantasy wise. Just a quick note: we got 10 teams with 7 games. There are a lot of games this week. There are no 5 gamers this week. Luckily, we don't have those weird 2-game series. We had a couple of those this week. It was weird having the A's and Giants not play on Friday, but some news and notes real quick before we do jump into FAAB. We mentioned Hunter Greene. Really bad news there. 15-day IL. For me, I felt like I wanted to see one more set of news here before I decided to drop him. I think he's probably going to end up being a drop, unfortunately, but I held for a week. He's just so good that I kind of want to see some news this week first.
Yeah, I do too. The comments were kind of calm about it from the team. Now, when are they not, I suppose, but usually they'll say if it's really significant. But then again, I remember the Nick Lodolo progression and how it took much longer than we thought it was going to be with him a couple different times. But I agree. Definitely hold him for a week.
And as you said, I mean, the Reds are unfortunately done and they just have no reason to push him back either.
That's the other part of the problem there too. I mean, this weekend, they got their hopes up. Maybe they could sneak into the wild card. They're like 3.5, 4 out. They're 6 out now.
Yeah.
Still plus 30. But that's no longer, by the way, that's not even close to being a top 2 team in the wild card race. At one point, they had the second best run differential of those in a wild card race.
Yeah, but welcome to the Padres and Diamondbacks, who have just flipped the wild card race on its head.
And the Braves are still hanging around. They're fighting back a little bit. The Mets actually, they're almost caught up to the Reds in terms of run differential too. But I'll tell you what, though. Arizona had a terrible weekend. Horrible weekend. They got swept by the Rays. Twice they rallied, only to blow it in the bottom of the inning. And granted, and today it went, and it was extra innings where they got beat, but it was, a lot of the things that they're resilient. They're hard to kill, but they are the heads of the Hydra. After all, they are Diamondbacks. So, but nonetheless, it was a tough weekend for them. They're still 2.5 up on the Braves, 4.5 on the Mets. So they're still in pretty good shape as long as they don't totally, really go through, turn this into like a big downfall here.
This Ketel Marte thing is big for them, though. He's
been
in and out of the line like 3 times now with this ankle. He got hurt. They're like, oh, it's not a big deal. He came back in. He left early one game. Then he missed a game. Then he came back this weekend. Today he left early again. He pinch hit and then left because he hurt himself in when he was hitting. And just, I don't know what's going on here. Like, it's weird. They said they did tests today again, and there was no new injury. Just kind of re-aggravated it. I don't know if he just is not someone who deals well with anything at all, or maybe they're missing something, or it's just more serious. But it certainly seems like this is not going smoothly so far.
Yeah, and it didn't seem good. The way he kind of looked in agony on this one here too. I mean, wouldn't you just hey, take a week?
Yes.
Take a series at the very least.
I think I'm taking 10 days right now because he's so important to them. The shorter IL for hitters. He's got 30 home runs. I think I'm giving him 10 days and be like, do we need you for the last 5 weeks? Take it. You just have to. I think it's they've messed around enough. They got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a total unlucky play that caused the whole thing in the first place, that late slide from Garrett Stubbs. But yeah.
And he was homering like every day before that too. He was red hot. It's been rough.
Kind of like MVP talk adjacent there a little bit. The Diamondbacks broadcaster,
the non-Shohei part of the.
They tried to do a side-by-side comparison, and it's still. I mean, they really are pumping up the defensive value
with Ohtani. Oh, defense! I got you. Okay,
because Ohtani has 0 defensive value, and Marte was a significant plus, but now.
Is it Judge or Witt in the AL? It's Judge right now, but Witt's got a chance, right?
I think the odds have narrowed a little bit just because Witt has been so good, but I think I'm gonna. In fact, let's look it up here. This is the
Judge's 44-111 on August 18th and hitting 332. Like, it's pretty absurd.
Yeah. Let's see. AL MVP is now Judge is still minus 1,400.
Okay.
And
so still a large
plus
favorite.
500, 550, 600. Depends on where, shop around, by the way, for all these things, get your best odds. But yeah, it's still pretty, it's pretty narrowed down to 2, which does kind of disservice to Gunnar and to Juan Soto, to be honest, but still.
Those guys have been so insane.
Yeah.
Speaking of crazy fun odds, Hideki Matsuyama was minus 3,000 on the 12th tee today, and then was plus 225 on the 17th tee. I'm not sure I've ever seen one swing that fast.
And then rallied to win anyhow.
And then when they went birdie after looking like a disaster, but I've never seen a minus 3,000 go to plus 225 quite that fast in golf.
Yeah. The NL MVP race is so done though. Marte was second.
So done.
Marte was second for what it's worth. But
do you think Shohei's going for 50-50? You think he has that in what he wants? I kind of feel like the way he's been running lately, I kind of feel like he wants 50-50.
He might. Seeing Freddie go down with a freak injury this weekend, though, the Dodgers might be saying like, okay. Oh, then again, the Dodgers are.
You got to win the division first.
Yeah, I was just going to say the Dodgers are taking on some more. Of course, Shohei can't pitch this year to solve what their real problem is.
That's true.
They are 3 up. Today was a good day for the Dodgers, both the Pods and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, Padres lost to the Rockies, and the Diamondbacks got swept. But Ohtani's 39-37 right now. Like, I remember when Canseco was 40-40, like, it was huge news, and it was like right towards the end of the season. He's 39-37 in the middle of August. This is insanity.
I remember some guy saying something about I'm worried about his power early on this season because of what happened with Harper. Oh, wait, that was me that was saying that. Sorry.
I'm just the frustrating part is we drafted in Vegas like in the 36-hour window. We weren't sure Ohtani's going to play this year with the whole translator thing. Like, it was really like there was a lot of
like
stories.
The 20th pick in my main.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. Like, it was really hard to take him in the first because we just didn't know at that exact it was like the 136-hour window. We just didn't know. Just breaking the news, and there were a lot of really negative stories out there. A lot of people were really worried that he was going to get suspended or administrative leave or something. It was just
to borrow the parlance of our friend Chris List, we're all a bunch of nutless monkeys for passing on him when we did, and pointing out when, oh, look, he went in the middle of the first round. I could not do that.
Yep, I'm guilty, and I fully agree. Rough.
Yeah.
Speaking of Dodgerland, big loss there. Tyler Glasnow went on the IL, right elbow tendonitis. It was a weird one because Dave Roberts on Friday was like, oh, Glasnow might pitch Saturday or Bobby Miller might pitch. And we're like, that's weird. And then he's like, oh, we're trying to get him some rest. And then he went in the IL. So I don't know if this is real. If it's real, it's a problem. Right elbow for a Glasnow is really problematic. I kind of feel like maybe the Dodgers wanted him to have a couple weeks. But like you said, they're in the midst of a race here. It's not that easy to do.
Right. And they already gave him a couple of weeks once. So I think it's real.
All right. That's not good because the Dodgers literally are just dying at starting pitching right now. Although Kershaw pitched really well twice this week, which was big for them. But Bobby Miller came back, looked bad again, looked like he looked earlier on in the year. Buehler has kind of been meh. They need one of those guys to step up here pretty big.
Yeah. By the way, main event overall leader Clark Olson in the chat right now. He got Ohtani at 16 or 2.1. And
it's shocking he's leading the main with Ohtani at 16. At
one point, the top 5 teams all had Ohtani on their roster. I think there's an interloper now because there's someone that drafted 4th. But it's pretty amazing that there's such a correlation this year to one player leading the overall. Sometimes you get it. You even like the Acuna Strider people last year. Not all of them were like up there. There were other people in there.
It's good to see Clark up there too. Clark's a really good dude. I probably will see him in Vegas in a couple of weeks, football draft too. So
yeah. You're doing second weekend again. I'm
doing the second weekend. The first weekend's Labor Day weekend, so I think I've got stuff going on that weekend.
Yeah, well, I have to do it that weekend because I'm going to be out of town the following weekend.
Speaking of my main event, Austin Riley removed Sunday. I don't like this one. There was the quote after the game from Snitker that the MR or the tests were inconclusive, which is never really a good thing. So they don't know. He got hit on his right hand with a pitch. This is one that definitely worries me because something bad there. He's be done for the rest of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say, it's really challenging to just deal with the hand injuries there.
I know it's the worst.
Especially with a hitter, you don't, power hitter, especially at that, you don't know what's going to happen. They're off tomorrow because they finished up their West Coast swing.
Yeah.
They're home on Tuesday. Big series against the Phillies. Suddenly gettable Phillies, by the way. Yeah, I know Phillies had a good weekend against the Nats, but they haven't looked good since the All-Star break themselves. So yeah. It's really a tough spot there. Both him and Freddie Freeman next on our list here. Yep. Hand injuries here. Freddie Freeman, man, it was a fluke on a ground ball that he got hurt on too. I mean, it was frustrating. He woke up this morning and hurt more than yesterday on Saturday.
Yeah,
not good at all.
No, because the X-rays were negative. You're like, all right, we're good. And then all of a sudden he's having a CT scan on Monday. That is not so great.
They're going to get some reinforcements back. At least Muncy and Edmund, and that only probably it accelerates that process just a little bit.
Yeah, it does. So that's a tough one there. And Freddie had obviously just come back, and the Dodgers just can't seem to avoid those injuries. Paul Sporer mentioned that there's someone in 3rd overall who took Strider in the first round. I'm looking right now. Took Strider 4th overall. He's 3rd overall in the main event right now.
Hey,
that is impressive right there.
Say his name.
Greg Martin. Sorry.
Greg Martin. Just kidding.
I didn't want to say his team name, so I had to find his actual real name.
Yeah, I know that there's a reference to that, and I just not tapped into pop culture, but you have to do so for your job. So
Strider, Glasnow, Edwin Diaz, Jazz, his first 4 picks. I have no idea how he started over. That's amazing.
That's impressive. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. Yeah.
Machado, William Contreras, Suzuki, Robert Suarez, Jaron Duran, big pick right there. Darvish 10th, not good. Sean Murphy 11th. Willie Adames 12th is really good. Rafaela 15th is nice. Luis Heel 21st. Tanner Houck 24th. Must have done some nice work in FAAB, so I'm going to go.
Yeah, because Houck is nothing right now.
Yeah, he was really good the first 3 months, but you're right. Has been.
I'm acutely aware of that on my main event team.
I would not have looked at this draft board and thought he was winning his league more or less 3rd overall. Got to be some nice FAAB ads in there. That's impressive. That is Greg Martin definitely deserves his name out there. That is really impressive.
Yeah. So.
Let's see some other news here. Ha-Seong Kim for the Padres was was lifted early day with a shoulder injury. Sounds like they're doing tests on him. That one did not sound really great to me either. Brandon Nimmo was removed Sunday with a shoulder injury. It seems like Nimmo's just had a ton of just something's been going on with him last month, pretty much every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, every week it's something, it seems like, and a lot of times I feel like it happens on Sundays a lot. Yeah. I could be wrong about that, but it just feels like he's a Sunday injury guy.
It definitely seems like he's just had a lot going on lately, so that's rough there. A couple of quick notes on pitchers: Jose Soriano and Zach Littell, both on the IL. One with right arm fatigue, one with right shoulder fatigue. I think that kind of makes them both drops. We only got 6 weeks left. I think they're both drops.
I was just going to say, take me down to Cut City.
Good one. See, I get that reference.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, I'm looking at the Greg Martin. There's not a ton of FAAB. He's managed everything really well. He added Taj Bradley early on, but that's kind of the biggest ad right there. They just managed really well.
Yeah, well done.
Other news, real quick. Andrew McCutchen went on the IL. Knee inflammation. If you have him, get rid of him. Yandy Diaz left early Sunday after getting hit by a pitch. Another one. It was ruled a left forearm contusion. You always want to see these guys in the lineup as quickly as possible to hope that there's nothing else lingering there. Other than that, I think we've kind of hit everything. The last one was the Dodgers. Both Max Muncy and Tommy Edman, who have been out long term. Edman for the whole year. They could both be activated on Monday.
Yeah. Chiropractic for the win on Muncy there, because they couldn't figure out any other way to get him healed up on that oblique. And that seemed to do the trick.
Also, I did a note. Some couple in the chat mentioned it. Pete Fairbanks had a strained lat. He came out of the game today after I think he blew the save and then came out, ready to give 3 runs and then came out. It sounds like he's headed to the IL. That's a tough one. I think he's probably a drop, but one of those maybe that was so close to the deadline, maybe hang on for a week. But last strain was 6 weeks left. Feels to me like we're probably not getting anything we want from him.
For me, it was a 1 week hold.
Yeah, I think I agree.
But yeah, that's a tough one. The tough part for me is trying to figure out which Ray to pick up.
We will get to that, but I agree that was they're always a tough team, and this one was really difficult to figure out.
And it's probably not just one. I think that's the takeaway there. But just one other note. I know we'll get into the specifics, but 4 of the 5 that I searched for in AL only tout wars were already rostered, so that was fun.
Gotta love AL only in the mid-August when anybody with a pulse is taken.
Yep, and there is limited IL spots. It's 4 IL spots, so you figure someone would have been cut, but oh well.
Let's jump into FAAB. There were actually a lot of mildly interesting names this week. There was a lot more interest than I thought there'd be as I started my research this week. But first, let's get to a note from our sponsors at DraftKings Pick 6. Do you ever play that over-under game with your friends? I think I can eat that slice of pizza in under 30 seconds, or I think it'll take you over a minute to down that 2-liter soda. If you have, you're going to love Pick 6, the new fantasy game from DraftKings. Here's how to play during baseball season. Pick between 2 and 6 players and choose a more or less of a stat, like runs, hits, strikeouts, or many more. Track your picks and play against others for a shot to win huge cash prizes. That's all there is to it. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code RWPicks. New customers play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. That's code RWPicks for new customers. Play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is now yours. 1 offer per new customer. Non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 plus in most eligible states. Not eligible in all states, including New York and Connecticut. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Jeff, let's start with some starting pitching. A couple of names that were interesting. They both have 2 starts this week, too, which kind of made them a little more interesting. Zebby Matthews getting called up by the Twins, pitch this week. Also, Matthew Boyd back off his Tommy John surgery, pitch this week, too. How'd you feel about those 2 guys? Do you have a strong preference between the 2 of them? Where'd you fall in these 2 guys? They got a lot of interest in bidding action this week.
I slightly preferred Matthews over Boyd just because of Boyd's rich injury history, which means I got Boyd, of course, in the main. I got outbid on Matthews.
What did Matthews go for? He was really popular in mine. I don't have a lot of money. 84?
Yeah, runner-up bid at 63.
He was even more popular than yours than that's a lot more than I had. His minor league numbers looked really, really good.
He has like 7 walks on the season.
He had in 55 innings in Double-A, he was a 30.1 K rate and 2.9% walk. Like that's wild. And then in A-ball earlier, he was 30% strikeout and 0% walk. Like his command with his swinging strike rate is pretty impressive.
Yeah, he was picked up in all 57 mains. The max win was 217. In one league, he went for $2, which just sickens me. Steve Goodwin, who's in my this was one of his online ones, but he's in my Vegas main. He dropped Craig Kimbrell, so it was kind of a bittersweet pickup drop, but $2 main events are weird.
Big Orioles fan, by the way. That's why it was bittersweet for him. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and just because you invested some sort of capital in Kimbrell and he's been so stinking terrible. I almost said something else, but
it is very clear to me in mid-August that a lot of people have more money than they did last year. There was these are guys like, even though Matthews popular, he was probably like a $20, $30 guy last year. He's a $40 to $50 guy this year. It is just a lot of teams have money. A lot of teams are in the mix with money. It just seems like if you don't have money right now, it's really hard to get anybody because there are a lot of teams with $200-$300 somewhere in there.
Yeah, there are. But looking at the schedule for Matthews, he gets a two-stepper this week at San Diego. Good park. Pretty scary lineup to go against. Home against the Cardinals. Yeah, that's very mid all around. So two-stepper and then home against the Jays next week. That's not so bad either. So you're looking pretty decent there. And I mean, honestly, I don't think Joe Ryan's coming back anytime soon, if at all.
Nor do I.
So I think the rotation spot is pretty solid there. So, of course, I got outbid on Matthews. I assume you did as well.
I did, unfortunately.
I did win the services of Matthew Boyd, who was really good in his first start. We know what Boyd's health profile looks like, of course. That's problematic. He gets two starts as well. Of course, one of them's at the Yankees.
Every time I looked at that Boyd, I'm like, oh my gosh, that first start against the Yankees, I can't watch that game.
And home against the Rangers. But I got to do, first of all, Shu and I are in a position where we have to do it.
Oh, yeah. You got to do it. Two starts.
We got to do wins in case. That's all we're about right now. We cut Evan Phillips this week. So sad. Light a candle. But you know, it's time.
Even not tanking saves. Phillips is probably third in line for saves there right now.
Yeah. Kopech is, Kopech is hot fire, but it's just Dave Roberts is the only reason why we'd have any hope for Phillips to get saved.
Yeah,
Hudson's struggling lately too, by the way.
Yeah.
As you acutely are aware of.
Yeah, I think it was kind of his job 10 days ago, and then the struggles and how good Kopech's been. Kopech's been awesome. He got out of it today. Austin Barnes made an error to make it a little bit of a jam. He had a guy on base, but boom, Arenado double play, and the game was over quick. He looks great.
Yeah, he does. He really does. But back to the merits of Boyd. We know what he can be when healthy. We've seen some glimpses lately where he's been really good. Granted, it's been a while, but we know there's a positive chance, and he could get some Ks. He's pitching for a good team. The Guardians, this weekend notwithstanding, played pretty well against some good teams. So thought it was worth the chance. We won 42-33 on that.
And he looked, Boyd looked really good in his first start this year too.
Yeah.
But
that
Yankee start is very scary though.
Yeah, it hovers like a dragon, not like an angel.
No, but you got to throw it. But it's that's one that I don't know if I can watch that one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, go ahead, just punish me again. That's fine. I'll live with it now. I've made so many wrong decisions. I've been getting whipsawed now with the starting pitchers. That's the problem when you go 8 starters. You're going to make some wrong ones. We get the Simeon Woods Richardson decision wrong every stinking week, like without fail. At least Jake Irvin didn't win today, so I felt less bad about having him on the bench this week. But of course, other pitchers get lit up. It happens. But just have to live with it.
Still available in some 12-teamers. The guy that we mentioned last week, I was upset I got outbid on. He had probably the best two-step in baseball this week was Bowden Francis.
Yeah.
He threw a 1-hitter earlier in the week and then a 3-hitter with 7 strikeouts today. It was just a massive 2-start week for anybody that got him. It was against the Angels game. I guess he had 1 run. So 1 run and 2 starts. Looked really good. He threw a couple changeups today that I was watching that like nasty pitches. He was a pretty big he was a pretty big name in the off season or the draft season, like DCs and people who he's called up. But he's 28. But man, he looked really good today.
He sure did. Yeah. And I think I'm more impressed too because he kind of had the 5th starter's job, a shaky 5th starter to start the season.
Yep.
Got hurt, went to the bullpen, went to the minors for a while, and then built himself back up. And yes, beating the Angels is fun. It's fun to be able to do that, but still, you got to beat him. He's had some other tougher starts earlier too that he's pitched very well in. He's making a pretty good case for next year. And the Jays, the Jays are still like fashioning themselves as contenders next year because they didn't totally strip down. They didn't trade away the core players. They traded away the guys that were pretty much going to be gone anyhow.
Yeah, but since they moved him and he's been pitching in the back in the rotation, I mean, 3 straight really good starts. He's someone that I think at 12-teamers you got to pick him up too.
Yeah. Greg Martin did pick up Bowden Francis last week. So there you go.
Hey, whatever you do to make up for Strider in the first round, that's impressive right there. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to start? Those are kind of 3 that jumped out to me. Francis probably more of a 12-team guy, so he got added a lot of 15-teamers. Bobby Miller, we mentioned earlier, he's back.
Bobby Miller
in our world. He got called up when Glasnow got hurt. Did not pitch well. Has not pitched well in the minors. Did not pitch well in April when he was on the Dodgers. He was way down my list. I think I actually got him in one league, but he was way down my list. He was probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It's not good. He was 6 or 7 in my league. I kept trying to look and talk myself into it. And I looked at all his stuff. It's just, there's nothing. He's not, after his first start this year, he hasn't really made a really good start all year. The first one was great, by the way. He had 11 strikeouts, 6 innings. Everybody's like, oh, there it is, Bobby Miller. I knew I should take him. And then since then, he hasn't had a good one since.
No. And I did some digging on him. He's still throwing 97.
Yep.
But it's getting hit. And it's the thing that's frustrating. I think he had 11 whiffs in his start against the Cardinals. He had like 11 Ks in his first start against the Cardinals to start the season.
Yep.
Because they opened, remember, like 4 games to start the year. So that,
by the way, it looked every bit of that start too. Like
I think I tweeted after that I had some Bobby Miller FOMO, and that since then it's been just a disaster for him. He was on our waterfall, but I moved him down like behind Osvaldo Bido, behind Bailey, who has faltered. And I think maybe even someone else in that list. He was low on my list. Let's put it that way. He went in my main 32-1. So there's, the thing is, I get it, because sometimes if you need to make a dramatic move, you got to take a swing on upside. You're not looking for sure things at this point in time. There's 6 weeks left in the season, right? Sure things aren't there.
He was just so bad in AAA too. Like
I know, but have you looked at like the PCL stats? Like every ballpark is crazy. Like I saw a tweet about this, and I again, this is what I'm bad at. I see a tweet. I remember the substance. I don't remember the author. So just realize the PCL is historically tough for pitchers. Historically. And it'll skew, like when you look at AAA numbers, take it with the metric ton of salt when it comes to the pitchers and the hitters for that matter, I suppose.
If he wasn't on the Dodgers, we wouldn't even talk about him though. And he's had 1 usable start all year. I get it. He was on my waterfall too. And I think I ended up with him. I don't think I'm throwing this week, but it's just, I mean, it's hard to find any reason. I wouldn't use him this week if you picked him up. Like I get picking him up and maybe watch a start, but there's no way I use him this week.
Yeah, that's fair. I threw a waterfall on Valente Bayozo, who pitched well again today. Keider Montero, and break class in case of emergency Joe Boyle, because he's got like a decent home start this week.
I kind of like Keider Montero's actually looked pretty good, and he gets the White Sox this week, which is nice.
That was one of the appeals, and he's starting to pitch a little bit better the last couple times out.
You mentioned Osvaldo Bido for the A's. He has a home start this week against Tampa Bay. His last few starts have been really good. I was someone that I like you. I moved him ahead of Bobby Miller. I got outbid on him too. But I mean, last 2 starts, 12 innings, no runs, 11 strikeouts, 3 walks. He's looked really sharp the last couple starts. Yeah,
he has. And this is a guy I kind of dismissed earlier, but it's hard to dismiss it. Plus, he gets that home start against the Rays, and then Joe Boyle. I think he's a 2-stepper this week. So that's why I was kind of interested in him. And Bayozo is, someone I'm not really on, but it's hard to deny the results. So again, it's a Marlin. I won't bid on a White Sox pitcher now. I just won't. I won't bid on a Rocky. Maybe I should, but I won't. I looked at Boyle, and then I saw the 17% walk rate, and I just crossed him off. I know he's got 2 starts. If you're looking just for strikeouts, I suppose, but man, she's just not throw strikes. Yeah. Yeah, I have one league where my ratios are bad enough that I don't care. We're this point. It's not my main, but it's another one. But we're at this point of the year where if you need stats, or I've been picking up some stolen base guys that I don't really want to play, and playing them over guys that are better. But it's just that time of year when categories matter.
Last guy I want to ask you about, any love for, you mentioned you don't want to pick any White Sox, but any love for Jonathan Cannon, 2 starts a week at San Francisco, home against Detroit, 4.02 ERA in 80 innings. He's been pretty serviceable, at least ERA wise, but man, we're getting wins will be very, very difficult here.
Yeah. There's got to be a million Cannon jokes, but
I grew up with a kid named John Cannon who was freaking awesome at baseball.
Yeah, provides good fodder for jokes, I suppose. But
his twin brother ended up being the starting goalkeeper for the San Jose Earthquakes of the MLS too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they were stud twin athletes, like bigger than everybody, and would hit someone the first inning, and just nobody would ever get a hit after that.
Yeah,
everybody was so scared about getting hit again.
In Little League, there was a kid that was like tall, prematurely tall, so he threw a little harder, and he just towered over you on the mound. And yeah, I was a reasonably decent Little League hitter, and I was helpless against this guy, just totally helpless.
It's amazing what a little bit of size does at that age. A little bit, you get the one kid who's throwing like 5 miles an hour harder than everybody else, and it gets pretty scary. Yep. Relievers, we've talked about Kopech enough. I think that he was 77% rostered in the main event, 51% in 12 tiers. Obviously, an easy ad for anybody if you needed saves. He's got the last 2 for the Dodgers. Looked very good doing it. Has not given up a run since he's been on the Dodgers, and strikeout to walk ratio is really, really good. But the other guy that's emerged, and you mentioned him 2 weeks ago, and I think I probably kind of tossed it away when you mentioned it. It was a really good call by you. Seranthony Dominguez in Baltimore has surpassed Craig Kimbrell, surpassed Yennier Cano, who everybody picked up 2 weeks ago. That has not worked out. Cano's throwing in kind of some lower leverage situations. Dominguez up to 4 saves now. It seems like he's the guy in Baltimore, at least for the moment.
Yeah, and they don't have anybody better to turn to. It's just kind of like, I don't even think Dominguez is that great, but Kimbrell, I mean, he was a therapeutic drop for a lot of people, including Tuesday night co-host Fred Zinke was telling me about this ahead of time, that he was going to drop him and it was going to feel really good to drop him. But maybe it won't feel that good because it means you've had him rostered all this time. But
right,
nonetheless, I mean, I get it. It's just, he's so bad, and I will give myself credit for not drafting Kimbrell anywhere. That was, I mean, yes, for about 2. This is like the same story every year. For 2 or 3 months, he's fine.
Yeah.
Come August and September, you just can't trust him. I just don't want that.
And when it's not fine,
I took Gavin Phillips instead. I'm totally fine.
When it's not fine, it goes so not fine, so hard and so fast and so big time too.
Yeah.
You get 3 walk outings, 4 walk outings. But yeah, Dominguez, I mean, and the key thing we talk about Baltimore is a really good team. Like, this is a team that's going to have wins, going to have save ops, and Dominguez is the guy right now, and that's huge for fantasy. I mean, that's all you need at this point is a guy who is in that role for a team that's really good. It's a lot of value.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and we're going to talk about this on Tuesday, is there's been surprise for all year. We've had a lack of good options for closers picking up, and all of a sudden they're popping up everywhere.
Wild. It's so funny because I couldn't find anything. Then all of a sudden you get Kopech, you get Ben Joyce, you get Dominguez.
I saw Urseg available in the league or two.
Lucas Urseg is a good call too. There's been like 4 or 5 guys who actually
Walker.
Yep, good call on Walker. Seems like they're actually in the role right now, which it was 4 months of none of them, and now all of a sudden there's 4 or 5 guys who have fallen to roles, and it's been pretty weird how that worked out because there was nobody for months.
Fauché, is that how we pronounce it? Fauché.
I call him Foucher, but whatever you want to go with. Yeah.
For the Marlins, I mean, he's also been a guy a little bit there. It really is like, and the problem is it's too damn late for me. Unless I really commit to like getting 4 of them.
Yeah. And in a 15-teamer, that's really hard to do. In a 12-teamer, you probably could have kind of amassed them the last couple of weeks and done it. In a 15-teamer, it's tough because everybody's looking for them. But I mean, I had 1 forever in main event, my second main event, and now I got 3, and I'm hoping they work out. But hopefully you gain some saves because I'm dead last in saves and have been for months.
Yeah, I'm down to dead last too. I think we're still at 25. Well, I know we're still at 25 because we didn't even roster a reliever this week, or start a reliever. And I cut the aforementioned Phillips. So,
So last situation at closer, we mentioned that Peter Fairbanks went on the IL today. Some talk of maybe Drew Rasmussen, been throwing kind of a couple innings. Maybe he slides there. Edwin Uceta has been really good. Manuel Riga has been good lately. Garrett Clevenger had 3 or 4 saves early in the year. Do you think that the Rays go with one guy? I think the answer to that is probably going to be no. But if they do, or if you have a preference, is there a guy you prefer in here?
That's a no for me, dog, on both accounts. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be one person, and I don't think it's going to be 2 people. I think it's going to be whoever Kevin Cash needs to get this particular type of hitter out. Poche, Rodriguez, Uceta, Kevin Kelly, Clevenger. They all could be part of it there. I think Rasmussen is not going to be that. I think he went 2 today. I think that's kind of like the role that they'd like to have for him.
I do
Maybe
too.
extend him to 3. So I don't think it's going to be him.
I think a small bit on Uceta makes sense to me just because of how awesome he's been this year. 27 innings, 34% strikeout rate, 4% walk. I know he's been rough in the past, but 0.98 whip, 0.98 ERA, 0.58 whip. Granted, the BABIP's really low. The strand rate's really high. I do get that, but
33-4 though. I mean,
33. Yeah, it's great.
I agree. Uceta is probably a fun option there, but
I agree. There's probably not going to be an option. I think
he's
probably
prepared for being frustrated. And it's just Rodriguez has been mentioned also as a possibility. He's pitched pretty well lately too. By the way, Uceta, Rodriguez, freely available pitchers. And Uceta is now with his 4th major league team. It's just as a Dodger once, a Diamondback once, a Met once. And now with the Rays this year, but the Rays are so good at turning guys around like this.
They really are.
It really works for them. The risk comes though that they get hurt in the process because the way they have them pitch. As we saw, who's the pitcher who was with the Stevenson? Robert Stevenson is an example.
Oh yeah, good call. Yeah.
But they max out these guys, and sometimes they get a payday in time, so it's worth the trade-off.
Robert Stevenson, who moved it to an 8th or 9th round pick in DC season when he got traded to the Angels and then never pitched this year.
Yeah. And that's so Angels, by the way, too.
So Angels. Oh, the Angels are a mess. So let's talk a few hitters before we jump out of here. I thought there were 2 hitters that were pretty obvious. They were very, very rostered main event, but 12 teamers. Junior Caminero was 85% rostered 12 teamer. Obviously an easy pickup. He got called up on Monday. If he was available in your league, you got to go for him. And then Kerry Carpenter was 90% taking the main event, but only 40% taking the 12 teamers. He had a really big week this week. Got a 2-homer game his first game. I think those were super obvious. If they were available, especially Carpenter, 60% available in 12 teamer. They were a full green light. If you need offense, you had to go for both those guys.
I'm so mad. And we even called it Kerry Carpenter. I picked him up speculating on his call up, had a setback.
I didn't want to ask if you kept him or not.
No, we didn't keep him. Of course we didn't keep him. And I didn't get him back either. He was picked up either 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks ago that someone picked him up, and this is just why I need to be better. Be better at FAAB and figuring these things out. But
it's a tough one though, because usually when guys have a setback, it lasts a little bit longer, and you got roster crunches.
We did, and we needed desperately needed playing time.
Yeah.
Carpenter was available in yogurt. I got outbid. I was actually low man in FAAB, and I had 75 left, which kind of tells you about the league. But of course, I got outbid this week on him. Although it was Mike Carter, who's been active all season long, so I couldn't get Carter there, but that's okay. I did get Victor Robles instead. He happened to be available too, so that was a decent enough pickup.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was some again very odd. Yogurt brings some very odd results. I'm sorry. Let me just sidebar for a second, then I'll let you go again. Sorry. Shay Whitcomb was our lead pickup, 171-0. Jace Young, 137-0. So of course I'm in on Carpenter. I bid 17, respectable now. Nope, 49-17. It's just whoever it gets prioritized. It's the weirdest darn thing, and I've benefited from it, and I've also gotten punished on it.
Shay Whitcomb was interesting. Just because you mentioned his name, I didn't know much about him. And then I looked up his Fangraphs profile. Man, this dude's been awesome. I think it was 25, 26 home runs and stolen bases in AAA this year, hitting 293. Man, if this guy can get some playing time, I don't know exactly how it works out playing time wise. I think he's playing a little first base, playing third base this weekend when Bregman's out. But man, speed power combo with this guy was pretty intriguing if you looked at his minor league stats. Yeah, and the odd thing is he had that huge ass bid, and part of my language, huge bid in yogurt, not picked up in my main, literally not picked up at all. Big old bid in AL Tout Wars, not picked up in this. It's just all over the map with this guy. I actually like stories like that because it makes me think, okay, we think we know everything. We think we know these players, but we don't. Yeah. A lot of times is he just up while Bregman's out, or is he cut himself? Is he kind of working his way in? Could he play first base? Because the Astros
shockingly did not improve at first base at the deadline.
They have been looking for a first baseman. People asking in the chat, we're talking about Shay Whitcomb, the Astros guy who got called up this weekend. Yeah, but I think first base is the key here because they've been looking for a first baseman for literally the whole season.
Yeah. And they've tried Joe Loperfido, except they didn't really try.
Yeah.
The Astros tried, obviously Jose Abreu gave up. Zach DeCenzo's gotten time.
John Singleton for a while, and that clearly is not happening either.
They needed John Homerton. That was the problem. And so they got Singleton.
They got John Strikeouterton instead.
Yeah, that's true too.
We talked about Kerry Carpenter. Spencer Torkelson was called back up by the Tigers. It's funny, we talked about him last week. We're like, do you want to speculate in this guy? Are they going to call him back up? He is back up now. Any interest here on a guy who hit 30 home runs last year?
Yeah, let's fold him and Young into the equation together there.
Yeah.
And for that matter, the shortstop they just called up too.
Trey Sweeney.
Yeah, Trey Sweeney as well.
I like that they're playing the young guys. I mean, I think that's great.
I do. I think they're revamping their lineup. I think that's smart. Again, I come not to bury the Tigers, but to praise them. I do have some bids in on Torque. In one league still pending. I haven't gotten them yet, but yeah, I'd be happy enough to get them.
It's just so weird because everything with Torkelson last year looked awesome. I mean, he had a 50% hard hit rate and a 14% barrel last year. It was not like he fell into 31 home runs. He was 31, 94, and all of it looked like, the strikeouts were a little bit high, but 25%, not like crazy high, and a ton of hard contact, and just all went away this year. I have no idea what happened here.
Yeah, and it's not like he has a lack of pedigree either. Yeah.
Man.
Although I'll say what happened the first couple of years of his career, where we kept on waiting for him to launch and it didn't. Then last year it finally launched and he regressed back again. And it's specifically he struggled with fastballs. They were saying he had a hit yesterday off of Rodon. That was a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And he's got one of the lowest rates against 95-mile-an-hour fastballs in baseball.
And teams figure that out and they will pound away until you fix it.
Yeah,
too.
They when you have a nice clear weakness like that.
Yep.
That's something to do. Let's talk a little Jace Young as well. I get him and Jackson Jobe mixed up a little bit because they're both Tiger prospects, JJ and all that. So I was trying to pick up Jobe, oh wait, he hasn't been called up yet.
Yep.
But Young is, he's a legit prospect. Good walk. I like the batting eye that he's got.
Yep.
Really good walk rate. The only problem is it doesn't come with stolen bases. A guy that walks that much, you want him to run, and he doesn't do that. So
he felt to me like a better real world player and got to watch right now than he seemed to fantasy at the moment. I don't think the power, he's at 14 home runs in the minors, but I don't think the power is quite there yet. And if he's not running, you're really hoping that his batting average is good because he's on the, Tigers are coming around a little bit. He's not gonna be a huge counting cat guy. I was worried about what he's gonna give us fantasy wise, despite the fact I think he's a pretty interesting real world prospect.
Yeah, exactly. And in some leagues, like in an AL only, a guy like this is super valuable, obviously, because he's playing every day. And he can get you some counting stats. In mixed leagues, certainly in a 12, the value is limited. You want him to do either power or speed, one or the other. As our friend Scott Pianowski likes to say, he has some category juice.
Yeah, I agree. You when I'm picking up guys like this, I'm looking for one or the other, which is why I went with I looked over to Andre Chaparro in Washington. Playing time, he's playing a bunch right now, and does have some pop. He had 25 home runs in the Yankees organization last year in AAA. Got 19 and 95 games for Arizona. Then he moved to Washington at the deadline. 4 home runs in 10 games quickly with the Nationals in AAA. They got called up. One of those things, playing time plus a little bit of pop here. I was interested in Chaparro as someone I could get to play third base for me in fantasy.
Yeah, when he got traded, I won't lie, I had to look him up. It was someone I wasn't really familiar with his game too much. You can put that tweet out there. I wasn't familiar with your game. But I like that the Nats kind of came out and announced, okay, we want to see what he's got. We're going to play him pretty regularly.
That's the same thing with me. I just thought the playing time and a little bit of pop, I think that at this point, is kind of what we're looking for is just someone that's going to play every day. And I think they're going to give Chaparro a run of playing time here. Yeah. There was a bunch of other young guys. I'm curious if you're interested in any of them. Jacob Wilson is on a rehab outing for the A's. Has kind of been good at every level. Billy Wagner's son, Will Wagner, has been playing a bunch right now too. Nico Cavadas for the Angels has a ton of pop in the minors also. Seems to be playing a little bit. There's a lot of guys getting call up. Oswald Peraza got called back up for New York. Someone that we've bid on for a couple years here. Any of these younger guys you thought were interesting as ads down the stretch here?
Jacob Wilson's interesting just because of the pedigree in leagues where, and the thing is, you could probably sneak him in a little bit. Wagner's playing every day or nearly every day. Peraza, Cabrera, here we go again. I can mix them up again. Yay.
You and me both on that one. I do the same thing. But, I mean, Peraza is just someone that he's been hot in AAA, get called back up. You just feel like it's got to come at some way. He's such a big prospect. I like him more than Cabrera fantasy-wise right now, but neither one has really done much.
Yeah, where I really thought where it was at was Jordan Beck.
Okay, I got that one, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know. I overbid by 6. We bid 7. She was on a golf trip, so I was totally responsible for all the bidding. So he didn't have the switch to tamp me down a little bit. Bid 7, won him unopposed, but. Prospect with pedigree, plays for the Rockies. Granted, they're on the road this upcoming week, but
the 3 of those in New York at least, though.
Yeah. So
and then 7 home games the week after against Miami and Baltimore.
So we'll see if the Pace Eaters play them every day or if they do something stupid in some sort of weird platoon. But at least you eventually get Coors Field, and I thought it was worth at least exploring. We had a spot to drop.
Yeah, I had him in my bids too. I just think, anytime you get a Colorado guy, sometimes there's been a lot of them that have not worked out, but it's always you look at some other guys this year. I mean, Toglia's worked out pretty well. Brent Doyle's been awesome.
Slowed down a little bit, by the way.
Slowed down a little bit, but overall, wherever you got him, it's been a really nice ad.
Yeah.
Did you do anything with Jordan Walker in St. Louis? We talked about him a ton in the preseason coming up drafts.
Every day, no.
Now, my thought was he's only playing against lefties right now, and that's almost impossible to start someone when they only face lefties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you what, if the Cardinals do drop out of the race, maybe they figure out that they have to play this guy every day.
Right.
But I don't know. They might not. I mean, who am I to be that, lording over them on that? But because it's Cardinal Devil Magic has worked for a long time, but I don't know.
Not with Jordan Walker so far.
No, it hasn't. Well, he's fitting the profile of Cardinal outfielder does well elsewhere.
That leads me to someone I was asking about. Dylan Carlson has 3 home runs since the deadline. All Cardinals outfielders combined have 3 home runs since the deadline, which is an amazing stat. At least that was coming in today. I had to look at the Cardinals did today, but is Dylan Carlson maybe a thing?
Sure, why not? I took a stab on him in at least one league. Why he was a highly touted guy.
Yes, he was. I mean, he's very highly touted. He was 3 years ago. We all wanted to draft Dylan Carlson.
Yeah. I may have done it multiple years and not learned my lesson, but the Rays are going to give him a chance to play too. That's the beautiful thing.
Late news right before the NFBC deadline. It was about 45 minutes. I was watching the first drive of the Niners preseason game. I can only watch like 1 or 2 drives of preseason and the starters go out. But Connor Norby called up by the Marlins. Obviously, Norby was a big prospect for the Orioles. Got traded to the Trevor Rogers deal with Kyle Stowers. Marlins sent him to AAA initially, but now Norby's been called up. He's going to be up for tomorrow. They play tomorrow. Whenever they play, they're calling him up. They do play tomorrow against Arizona. Getting called up, Norby was 16 and 13 in AAA with the Orioles. 16 home runs, 13 stolen bases. A little bit of speed, power guys. Someone we loved a few weeks ago when the Orioles called him up. Any interest in him getting the call to Marlins land?
Yeah. Does he play? Is it a platoon?
I think he gets called up to play.
What becomes of Otto Lopez? Does he just get benched or does someone else get benched? That's the part I'm not concerned because Berger's not sitting. Xavier Edwards obviously is not sitting.
By the way, Jake Berger has been insane. 14 home runs last 28 games. That is a crazy run. I think he has the most home runs since the All-Star break.
Yeah. Jonah Bride has been cromulent. Better than cromulent even.
Yeah, he's hitting cleanup for him. I think the answer is Otto Lopez, right? He's hitting 230 with 3 home runs and 280 plate appearances.
Yeah, probably 13 bags. So that's the only thing that he's been worth. But I think his defense has been good. But then again, he's got a 266 OBP.
I was going to say he's got a 270 OBP. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you can't let him block Connor Norby right now.
Yeah. You got to find out what you have in him.
I liked Norby this week. I added him in my bids about 615. I thought that
big brain,
kind of sneak him in there. He did not get. I got someone above him, so I didn't get him. He didn't get picked up, but someone I'm going to watch because he's getting playing time. I think he's someone that last 5 or 6 weeks could be pretty interesting for us.
Yeah. I don't think Norby was picked up in my league. So
yeah, it was late news. So I think a lot of people maybe didn't grab him. Jeff, question in the chat. What are you doing with Isaac Paredes in Chicago? He has been struggling badly, got banged up today too. I've never been a huge Paredes guy. I just don't know if you can drop him. As long as he's playing, he just got enough power upside. But I don't love him going from Tampa with the short left field porch going to Chicago because a lot of his home runs are kind of pull home runs, not a big hard hit guy. He was scratched due to right shoulder discomfort today, so I don't love that either.
Yeah, I wouldn't cut him, but I think he's maybe a bench until at least for a week until you figure out what's going on with his shoulder. I think it's kind of happenstance that he strikes me as like a feast or famine sort of guy. Maybe in a 15 teamer, I certainly hold 12. Maybe he's a cut. I guess he's definitely a bench this week until you figure out what's going on with the shoulder, though. He
and Morel are both way under 200 since the All-Star break. They've both been really bad.
You know who else has been horrible, awful, no good since the trade? Since he got traded, is Lane Thomas.
He's starting to lose playing time.
Yes, he is.
To Will Brennan, and Thomas has been really rough.
Yeah, he has.
I hate another player I'm acutely
aware of.
I hate when guys I like that are doing well get traded. I hate like upsetting that. I hate it.
Oh, I just see him in the outline now too. So I kind of just stole your thunder on that.
No, that was really good. That was a good note right there. But it's been really rough for Lane Thomas. It's been tough. Rosarena had a bunch of strike hits, like 15 this weekend, 5 strikeouts on Saturday. It's sometimes tough to get moved.
Yeah, it is. It is. Some people thrive with it. Jazz thrived and then got hurt. Of course. Did you see him sitting in the stands today?
Oh, so I love Jazz. It's hard not to like Jazz.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he did a half inning with the broadcast team. It was fun. Just listen to him talk. Like he seems like he just loves playing baseball.
Yeah.
Did you drop Lane Thomas? You holding him? What the heck you doing with this guy right now?
Didn't drop him yet. We had 2 cuts in Evan Phillips and never pick up a player who's named after a country but spelled wrong. Taiwan Walker was able to drop him. So
I did try and save you from that one. I got to admit.
Yeah, he did. 2 starts though.
2 starts at
Good
home
starts.
for a great team too.
Yeah. Oh, so bad.
Yeah, my 2 start ads this week were bad too. I had Tyler Malley and it was really ugly. And he threw like 3 innings today. Then I had Trevor Rogers, who only made 1 start. Now I got to figure out if I'm going to start him next week. I think I might have dropped him, but I'll have to look.
He's bad. He's
bad.
Really bad. His velocity hasn't gone up. I don't. The Orioles trade deadline is interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Stowers has done nothing for Miami, but if Norby's good, that could be tough. But
Norby might not even be that great, but the best you could do is Trevor Rogers. That's the part I'm more concerned about. Like, what did they see? I mean, the velocity, the results were all there in front of everybody. What did they see that made them think that, okay, we can use this guy right now?
2021 film. It's the only thing I can think of because that's the only thing that's he's done.
They gotta get a new cable provider then to get some more.
Haven't updated the iPad since then, but anybody else you were adding? Ramon Laureano's played a bunch in Cleveland. John Kenzie Noel's playing a bunch. Kind of riding the hot hand there. A couple of home runs, like 3 home runs this week. Tyler Black back up for Milwaukee. He had the big bids in May, but I just don't know how the playing time is going to work there.
Yeah, ride high April, shot down in May, something like that with him.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I mean the fact that Yelich is out, I mean he's still not the first choice to play though, and they're still super crowded at positions. I mean that's the thing about Milwaukee. I guess that's like we're not giving them enough credit. Is they have a collection of good, maybe useful players.
I forgot to mention we're talking pitching. Someone in the chat mentioned him. Kate Povich pitched really well for Baltimore this week. I just didn't.
They sent him down.
They did send him down, so I just don't think he can start this week. I looked at him and I'm like, oh, really good start. And then you realize that they sent him down, and it seems like they're just going to kind of ride Rodgers for the moment.
It's got to be like an injury or something. If someone gets hurt, then they can call him back up. That's the only way to do it there. But I don't see any day-to-days on their roster. But things have happened. But yeah, it's not like they got to. It's Rodgers is the guy to replace, but he pitches tomorrow, so they can't use Povich anyhow. So that's the problem.
Yeah, it'd have to be a later in the week injury replacement kind of thing. Jeff Lyers, I want to ask you about before we jump out of here. A guy that you and I have talked about a bunch. I have drafted a bunch and don't have any, and currently, which is frustrating. Do you think Gavin Lux has finally figured it out? He's been really good like the last 6 weeks.
Yeah,
and looks different. We both live in LA. Watch a bunch of Dodger games. His swing looks. He's much more aggressive. He was like there was a while he was just trying to put the ball in play, kind of not swinging hard. He's really aggressive right now. He finally looks like the guy he looked like 5 years ago in the minors, and it's been fun to watch. He's hitting the middle lineup for the Dodgers and coming on pretty hard here.
Well, the Dodger crew is pretty excellent, and they mentioned something about him being more aggressive, and him making a case of that aggressive in the strike zone, looking to do to attack certain pitches a little bit differently. I mean, obviously this is something that was drilled into him. It's not something he necessarily just said, "Oh, I'm just going to do this," but. Right. Yeah, it's easy. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to translate that into results. I'm impressed. He's looked really good. There's went to the Phillies Dodgers when it was Glasnow versus Nola a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago almost now. And Lux was the first guy that looked good against Nola. And he every at bat, he seemed like he was locked in. It was pretty impressive.
I mean, he was just so weak and bad the first 3 months of the season. He had 2 home runs and he was hitting about 230. And since then, he had 4 home runs in July, hit 299, 2 home runs already in August, hitting 300. I don't know if he flipped a switch or maybe he's finally healthy or something happened, but he looks like a different guy. And eye test and stat test wise, he looks totally different.
Yeah. Spore suggests the knee. He's trusting his base again, trusts it more. Yeah. I'm sure that has something to do with it too.
For sure.
We often forget about sometimes that, okay, a player is back. We automatically expect him to be back to whatever form he was in. Although keep in mind, Lux didn't have the form even before the injury.
Yep.
Like he was always one of those guys like, what did everybody see in him? Why can't, where are these results? And finally it's like, they're there a little bit. And the thing is, the Dodgers are playing Mookie and Wright because of Lux hitting well now too. So that's one of the things that is a happy not accident, but happy result from all of this here. Still can't throw, still can't play shortstop anymore.
No. He's actually been playing a decent second base though. He just can't make the throw from shortstop or third base. Yeah, it was good. Mookie had a nice play in the first out of the ninth for Kopech.
I saw that
nice play in right field. So you're like, yeah, maybe that works out all right. And they got Rojas and Nick Ahmed. So they got good defensive shortstops now too.
Yeah. It's amazing that the Dodgers had to troll off the waiver wire for a starting shortstop while Rojas was hurt too.
It is, right? It's pretty wild. Yeah. I think that's all I got here. We've got a little ways here, but anybody else on your mind? Anything else you want to talk about before we jump out of here with 6 weeks left in the season?
Do you think Nick Lodolo is broken? He's been awful since coming off the IL. Just not the same pitcher as he was earlier in the season. It's really sad to see.
He's an almost impossible guy to try and figure out where to draft next year.
Yeah.
Because you still can squint and see like there's some stuff here, but man, he's the 7.5 ERA and 6 starts since the break. He just kind of looks broken right now. Yeah,
and I really thought he was going to be awesome. I thought he was going to be better than Greene. And that has not been the case. Not even close.
It's crazy because the ERA is still 4.5. I mean, he was really good before he was pretty good before the stretch. He's gonna be a guy you got to dig into in the offseason, but it's gonna be tough to figure out.
It is.
Yeah, kind of winging a prayer, and you're kind of hoping that he finds what he used to have. But
Reds could be in operation shutdown mode with him too sometime soon.
We're gonna have a lot of those coming up here. I think Garrett Crochet is down to 1 or 2 starts left. I mean, he pitched so well this week, 9 strikeouts in 4 innings, and 55 pitches they just yanked him. And it's maddening. But
he got a big bid in my main, but I didn't even think about bidding on him because it's 4 innings.
It was really good for him.
Good as it gets, and they still yanked him after 4.
That's the key, is as good as it gets. If you get 4 innings and they aren't very good, you can't get anything going there. It's just, he looked really good this week, but if you could pull him at 55 pitches, kind of useless.
Yep.
So, want to thank everybody for listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. As always, we thank DraftKings Pick 6 for the sponsorship of the podcast. Want to thank everybody in the chat. There was a lot of comments going on. Sorry we can't get to all of them, but love all the chat in there. Really appreciate everybody watching and listening. If you're listening on the audio version, I want to thank you for that also. If you can please rate and review the podcast, obviously that goes a long way towards helping us too. We want to follow Jeff on Twitter. He's at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. We've been talking a lot of baseball here down the stretch. 6 weeks to go. This is where leagues are won. So, hang in there and make sure that you're still making all your lineups and moves and grinding it out, even though football season's starting. Good luck to everybody. Hope everybody moves up the standings this week. We'll be back at you next Sunday night. Take care.